Hi everyone, welcome back to Plant Happens. Today, as you can see on the title, I am talking about plants in my collection that I think it could be from the planet Arrakis. Now, I assume not everybody know what Arrakis is, and Arrakis is a planet from the movie or the novel series Dune. I went to watch the movie. I watched the first and second movie, and as well as the really old movie. All three of them I've watched, and as it's kind of complicated. As complicated as it is, I am a fan of the series, and so is my husband. And after we went to watch the second movie, he was talking to me like, "What do you think? What kind of plants will survive on Arrakis?" Now, that was his request for me to make a video about. I wasn't so sure about this idea, but when I posted on Instagram, if people do want this video, I posted if people want to see my biggest plants or the plants that I think will be from Arrakis. Surprisingly, almost half of the people wanted to see this video. So I decided, why not? It'll be a fun, short video that I can share with you guys, and it's gonna be a little bit different from my usual content. So here we are. So for the people who haven't seen the movie, and I don't think there's any spoilers here except for the climate of the planet Arrakis. So to explain a little bit about what this planet is like is it's basically a desert planet. The entire planet is mostly covered by sand and with extreme heat as well as extreme cold in winter. So I looked up the weather in Arrakis, and I think the highest it goes is like 70 something Celsius, I think 77 Celsius, which is not survivable. Survivable. No plants will survive in that kind of condition. But I also read that's just like a surface temperature of the sand when it's the hottest. So a lot of people who live on this planet live underground. So they dig like tunnel, and so that's deep enough where they can access water and whatnot. But water is extremely scarce on this island, not island, on this planet. So yeah, that's kind of the basic climate of what the planet is like. So you can expect me to talk about plants that's hardy and easy to care, and they require not so much watering, as well as it can tolerate drought. I guess that's the same thing. And also they can survive a lot of light, so a lot of sun exposure. And when it comes to the colder side of the climate, I technically don't think any plant can survive that. So we can just don't take this too seriously. It's just some plants that I decided that it's low maintenance and drought tolerant plants, as well as I've included some plants I think look very otherworldly that could be from this harshest weather. So I will obviously talk about why I think this plant could be from there or could survive there. So I hope you enjoy, and let's get right in. Okay, so I have my first plant here, and obviously it is a cactus. Okay, when I was selecting plants for this video, I tried to not include too many cactus, but since the whole planet is covered in sand and similar to desert condition, I had to choose some cactus. I think I have two cactus that I think is interesting looking. It's not the most common cactus that you might have in your collection. So this one I've chosen because of the very interesting shape. So this is commonly called spiral cactus for obvious reasons. So this growth pattern, when they grow taller, it twists in its shape, so it forming a spiral shape. Now, I don't know what happened here, but I think that there was a stunting growth, so it stopped here, and then it's basically started to grow a new segment of this cactus. Now, I'm gonna try to say the Latin name of this cactus, and it's called Cereus forbesii. I will put it under here, obviously, but I think this will fit in Arrakis because of obvious, the shape of this cactus is so special. And if you see this plant growing outside, I think you'll double take and think, is that a real cactus or is it a fake cactus? So that's why I've chosen this specific cactus. And it is definitely one of my favorite cacti in my collection. And it has been very easy to grow. So you can see that it's quite algae ridden, but I'm growing this in pond with added pumice. But this is my homemade pond. It's not the lechuza pond, so it's a lot more coarse. And the roots seems to be growing really well in this substrate, but I think maybe I underwatered it too much when this happened. I water this probably every 2 weeks, and since I can see the root growth is quite vigorous, I think if this was growing in Arrakis, the roots may be able to grow deep enough to sustain the life. And definitely super close to the grow light. So this is basically growing into the light at this point, and it's not burning. So I assume this will do well in the harsh sun. So the first one is spiral cactus. The second plant I chose is also a cactus. Now, this is the only, as I mentioned, I've only chosen 2 to include because otherwise I think it's gonna be all cactus. So I just chose 2 of them that I think are most interesting looking. And this one is commonly known as booby cactus for obvious reasons. I feel like these names the common names for cactus are very literal, like the spiral cactus and this one, booby cactus. And I think this was quite popular for a long time. And now I don't hear about it as much, but I think it's still one of the more sought after cactus because of the booby shapes. But this one, the Latin name is quite hard to say. I think I find all the cactus Latin names are very hard to say, so I'm just gonna try to read it off here. And it's called Myrtillocactus geometrizans. And this specific cultivar is called Fukurokuryuzinboku. Now, I said it in the Japanese way because this is a Japanese cultivar, and typically in US, I guess how you would say is Fukurokuryu, right? I can't, sorry, I'm actually unable to say it in English way because all I see is the Japanese name rather than the English names. And I think I've talked about this in a live sale with Lauren, and the name Fukurokuryuzinboku actually is a very fancy name, and the translation will be like lucky dragon god tree. And it's a very fancy name, and in English it's like, oh, looks like booby cactus, which I don't mind because, I think it looks like boobies rather than dragon god tree. But yeah, so this cultivar is specific. This is a specific cultivar of the Myrtillocactus. What is it? I can't remember. Myrtillocactus geometrizans. So yeah, this one is growing in a very similar situation. I just have it in pond. This is my what's it called? My own mix of pond. It's not lechuza pond, so it's a lot coarse and a lot more coarse. And this specific one has a lot more perlite compared to the other one has a lot of pumice. I got original cutting from Charmaine. I think she gave me a cutting like this size, and then it was growing really tall. So I chopped the top off and then just let the surface dry and put it in here, and it's just doing fine. So far I'm finding it to be very easy care, and I don't water this very often at all. Very similar to the spiral cactus. It just kind of sits there and do nothing, and after like 2 months you will notice, oh, it's grown like an inch. But for the most part you don't see it doing anything. And the roots, I don't feel the roots on this one is as vigorous as the spiral cactus, but even when I don't see any roots here, it was just sitting there looking perfect. So that's why I've chosen this one. Like, number one, it looks funny, and number two, because it has been super low maintenance, and similarly to the spiral cactus, it's growing very close to the grow line. So I assume this can tolerate very high amount of light as well as the heat, because my grow light emits quite a bit of heat. And yeah, so this is the booby cactus. Okay, so the third plant I have here is ZZ plant raven. The Latin name for ZZ plant is very difficult to say for me, so I'll put it down here and I'll just call it ZZ plant. I think everybody calls it ZZ plant anyways. And the ZZ raven is the black leaf version of the ZZ plant. So up close, you can really see how black the leaves are. And they are like almost true black. I would say it's pretty much true black, and there's not much of green. If anything, it's a little bit brown. It has brown tint or maybe like bronzy tint to it. The stem is very thick, and the leaves are very shiny. It was super dusty, so I actually cleaned the leaves before filming, so you don't have to see super dusty plant. But yeah, so I think everybody in the plant community knows that ZZ plants are very easy care, and you don't really need to water it very much. And some people say if you are watering ZZ plant more than you pay, like more often than you're paying rent, then you're watering it too much. And I agree to a certain extent. I actually water the plant probably every other week, because I don't completely soak the substrate. I think if you're soaking the substrate, then you probably really do only need to water every month. But because I only water it so there's enough moisture in the substrate, most of the time I would have to water it more than once a month. But because of those characteristics, I think this specific ZZ plant, especially the black one, really suit the mood of Arrakis. I think even though, what's the other planet? The other planet, okay, so I had to look up where the Harkonnens are from, and I can't really say the name, but I think it's Giedi Prime is where they're from, where they have black sun, and everything on their planet looks black and white basically. And I think the vibe of this plant matches that more, but I would say this is still one of those plants that look like it might not be from Earth, because of how black these leaves are and how little water it requires. I don't know. I can't speak English sometimes, and yeah. So how little of watering it requires, and I think a lot of you see the green version in malls for like decoration a lot nowadays, because I think a lot of people who takes care of the plants in shopping malls and stuff are noticing that these are much easier. So you might be seeing the green version of this plant a lot nowadays, but I would say this black version is very much like Dune, like fits the style of Dune. Not specifically Arrakis maybe, but do you agree? Do you think this look extraterrestrial? Is that the word? What does it look like it came from some other planet is what I'm trying to ask, I guess. I really love the look of this plant, and I think if your house is decorated in very minimal, like black and white interior, this will fit right in. I don't know why I'm talking about that, but I guess what I'm trying to say is the movie Dune has very like, even though there are lots of colors, but somehow I get the very monochromatic feel from the movie. So I think this one will fit right in. What do you guys think? Okay, so next I have two Hoyas to show. It's not my video if I don't have any Hoyas. Now, realistically, obviously Hoyas wouldn't survive in that kind of climate, but I'm thinking more so like they look like they're kind of from other world and they don't look like they're from Earth. And you know, even though it's super hot and dry in Arrakis, there is a palace, so maybe the servants at the palace can grow these inside the palace where the climate is controlled or something. I know that kind of defeats the purpose of this video, but I'm also choosing some plants based on how they look. And the first Hoya I have here is Hoya accicularis, and this is definitely one of those Hoya that's very different, and I've shown this on my Hoya tour, but the leaves are these little basically needles, and that's just how the leaves look. They're very much like the pine needle kind of. And I think that's why this doesn't even really look like a Hoya. And maybe it looks a little bit like Rhipsalis or something. And then it's very low maintenance for me. It doesn't require a lot of watering. But if anything, if when I water this too much, it kind of rots. So maybe it is possible that this can survive the Arrakis dryness inside, not outside. So what do you think? I really love this Hoya because it's super different, and I think it looks really cute if you have this on the shelf or something for like the texture this gives. And sometimes I think it's harder to grow Rhipsalis if you are not getting enough lights in certain area, and this would be a good alternative, I think. So yeah, this is Hoya accicularis. And next Hoya I chose solely based on the way it looks, because I've always said that this Hoya doesn't look real. It looks like it's from like Jurassic time, and it's one of those ancient dumpster Hoyas that me and my friends just kind of decided to name them. And it just looks like dinosaur skin almost, the way the edges are frilly, the venation, the splashes. It just doesn't look like this will be growing somewhere in jungle. Like if I'm I don't know, hiking through a forest or jungle or something, and I see this, I would just be like, is that real? Yeah, so, but it is definitely one of my favorite Hoya, and the leaves are super big. This new leaf, this is still floppy, is very, very pretty. And I have a new leaf growing here, and another new leaf that's coming in here. I hope you can see. But yeah, I feel like this, even though I think Dune is the setting is kind of futuristic, but certain part it feels very ancient, like almost like ancient Egyptian feel, maybe because it's set in desert and they have like pyramid-like structures. So I just get this feeling of it's an ancient story, and I feel like this plant fits that kind of atmosphere, I would say. And I can imagine maybe like the rich people, the nobles of the Arrakis may have this kind of plant in their house. What do you guys think? Okay, the second to last plant I have here is Rhipsalis. Actually, I think it's called Pseudo-rhipsalis now. I'm not sure, it's a entirely different category, or maybe they're related, but this is Pseudo-rhipsalis ramulosa. And I've chosen this plant because I think it's very distinct looking plant. You can see they form these little pearls on them, and it has the ability to grow a lot of like these pearls along the leaves. I'll insert a photo here of other people's, and it also has the ability to sun stress very red. Now I grew this in like a medium light, so this is completely green, but I've moved it to highlight, and the new growth that came in is very red, as you can see. And I think the photo I inserted is most likely to have very red leaves. So I feel like this plant can tolerate a lot of sun exposure. And even though these are jungle cactus, but they don't require high humidity. Like I just grow it in very, very dry area of my, I have a very small tent that has strong light in it, so there's no other humidity, and I think the humidity in there is probably less than 30% at times. I have the fan going at all times, so I think this I can see growing in maybe like one of those Fremen caves. Oh, surprised me, I thought something was moving in the backyard. So people who live on Arrakis, I think that native people of Arrakis, they live in like deep in the cave or deep in like a mountain with caves in it where the sun is not so strong, and they collect water. If you've watched the movie, you will know they collect water. And I feel like this kind of plant might be growing in that cave on their wall. Either way, I think this is my favorite Rhipsalis or Rhipsalis adjacent plant, and then it grows really nice as a hanging plant. Even though this one is going kind of crazy, I might just chop this to propagate it. But I really like the way this looks. I just wish this can be sun stressed, but it's really hard to get like a strong light from the side. But I do think even when it's green, it's a very pretty plant. And again, I think these little pearls just look so bizarre. So that's why I've chosen this. I think this might be growing on Arrakis. And the last plant I have here, this is my 7th plant. I honestly don't know how to say the name, so I'm gonna read it off my phone again. This one is called Decarya madagascariensis. And I think this one is pretty obvious why it was chosen, because it basically looked like a dead tree. But I think it's really, really nice plant. I think a lot of people do like this plant, but it's very difficult to import this and then acclimate it or something. I don't know how you will make a cutting of this. I don't know how you would harvest seed. Sorry, I'm just gonna take the decoration off. And basically it just look like a bunch of dead branches, but this is just how they look. They do grow like little leaves. If I can find photo of the little leaves, I'll put it here. But for the most part, they just look like these dead branches that is like zigzagging. And a lot of people feel that this is very Halloweeny plants as well. But I don't know why I don't really associate this plant with Halloween as much as it looks scary. I just feel like it look like it will be growing somewhere really dry and desolate and like nobody lives there, and then it will be just this plant growing. I think this plant can grow super big because it's actually a tree. I will put the photo over here of the like really big tree. Once it's really big, it almost doesn't look like it's gonna survive in like a really dead area, but when it's small to medium, I definitely think they look like the dead, right? Like if I didn't know and somebody came to me and say, here, take this plant, I'll be like, that's a dead plant, that's a dead tree, why are you giving me a dead tree? But that's just how they grow, and unfortunately mine is not growing super fast because there was so many times that this almost died because I was away, I couldn't water it, and so based on that, you can tell that it actually requires regular watering. So this is definitely not like suited to actually grow on Arrakis, but it definitely looks like it could be growing on Arrakis, just out on like in the desert. Like there's nothing, there's just sand dunes, and then there'll be just this growing. I think that's fair to say. Don't you agree? This plant. But like I really love this, so I don't want it to die, but I don't think it's dead. It's hard to tell. It's really hard to tell with this plant. Is it dead? Is it alive? Is it doing anything? But it's just super cute. I really like when it's zigzagging like this. Just best. So yeah, that's my last plant. I think this one is pretty obvious why it made this list. Okay, so those were the plants I think would grow on Arrakis, or looks like that they will grow on Arrakis. So as I mentioned, I've struggled to choose plants that I think will actually survive on Arrakis because, you know, the heat and the drought. But if I based it solely on that, I will just end up with only cactus on this list. So I added some plants that I think it looks like the way it look, it could be from Arrakis. And I hope you're okay with that, and I hope you enjoyed this kind of a little bit of different video, just a little fun. And I hope this will be a short video. So far I've been filming for 40 minutes, and maybe this after editing it will go down to like less than 30 minutes, hopefully, because all my videos are really long, and sometimes I just want to do a short video. And yeah, so that's it for me today. And if you liked this video, please don't forget to hit the like button. It helps my channel a lot when you do that for me. And if you like to see more videos from me, please subscribe, and then also hit the notification button if you want to be notified when I post new videos. Okay, so that's it from me today, and have a nice day. See you soon.